What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Just a Bit Inside podcast. Joining us on the show today to talk some NBA. We're about a quarter away through the season, so a lot to catch up on right now. We got Rob Greene, NBA writer and journalist for CBS Sports, Fansided, Hoops Habit. Just chatting with Rob before the show here. He's a big NBA guy, also big Celtics fan, so we like that here on the show. Excited to definitely talk about the Celtics, best team in the NBA, but we'll get to that in just a minute. Rob, how things going?
Good, Chris. Like you said, Celtics have really been making me happy. I've been loving the game. As everyone knows, I live the game day in, day out. Just been enjoying it completely. Obviously, maybe a lot of us didn't expect the Celtics start. Just been enjoying work for CBS, been enjoying the writing, and of course, just watching the art of the NBA every day. Nothing's better.
Yeah, so now how did a guy like you, we've talked a little bit, you're in Jersey, a Celtics fan, you said it was about that 07, 08 team, but how did you fall in love with basketball, and how did it kind of, become, as you phrased on Twitter, the most beautiful thing on the planet?
I like that. So, yeah, I grew up just a quiet, shy kid, obsessed with video games. Day consisted of Super Mario. I really didn't fall in love with sports until I had family friends who presented me the local, of course, New Jersey Devils. They brought me to games. I met, legends for the organization. Come the 08, 07 season, after they made those mega trades when they became great again, I really just started watching hoops a lot. And my dad was a big Celtic fan. He loved Kevin Garnett and just the way they were, of course, the intensity on both ends. Kevin Garnett, mainly. Rondo is arguably my favorite player ever, although Marcus is starting to leave that. I've been telling people. Just the big three, Ray Allen shooting, Doc, of course, and, guys like Nate Robinson, Big Baby, all them. Come middle school, maybe around when they had that heartbreaker again in 2012 to LeBron, maybe a little before that, I was like, all right, I really feel it, to where no one can equal me in fandom. I really feel like the biggest fan ever, and just this is my passion. This is my thing, and I just felt the growth of me becoming that crazy Celtic fan like no other. And I just, like you said, was one of those guys on Twitter that would always talk and report about not only the sport but the Boston Celtics. Didn't really know what I wanted to do as I was, entering college, adulthood. And then I was like, this is my thing, talking sports, talking hoops. I, just picked up a journalism degree and then just combined both and just fell in love with the craft of writing, journalism, of course, basketball writing. And now I just do my thing on Twitter. And here I am all these years, and just
Yeah.
became a writer in the craft and just love it, really. Not only it used to be, of course, started with just Boston and then just branched out, and just as I learned the various styles and just learned all the knowledge that I needed, I just used it towards everything around the league that I loved art wise. So yeah, I just love continuing to grow in this field.
Nice. So, well, we're glad to have you on the pod, Rob. I'm excited to chat NBA with you here. I know you're doing some podcasting as well. We can plug all that here at the end. But like I said at the beginning, about a quarter away through the season here. So kind of some teams we've seen some good things from, some teams we've seen some bad from. Let's jump in with the Celtics first. Of course, the best team in the NBA, 18-5 so far in the season. What do you think's been the key to the Celtics' success so far this season?
Well, here's where the fan of me comes in. I'll
Go
paint
ahead.
the
Go
whole
ahead.
overview for you, Chris. It's incredible. And the fact that they head towards training camp, right? And they go through these unprecedented circumstances,
Mm-hmm.
and they really just, like, all the fans, including myself, are like, here we go again. It's like thinking of the injuries in the past, thinking of the bad luck that's held them back. Uh, Obviously, it looked like Udoka was going to be a huge piece. They lose Williams for longer than they expect. They lose a new signing in Gallinari, which may have gotten overvalued at times when they lost him. But obviously, he was a great veteran piece to add. And then they named Mazzulla the intern, and which is going to be, of course, the permanent head coach soon, as we've seen.
Yeah.
And he has been with the core of the team, Al Horford, Jalen, Jason, Marcus, all of them since I believe 2019, sitting behind the bench and obviously being with the G League for the summer league teams. He comes into training camp, and my thing is when media day happens, I'm like, we really need the Udoka thing to be the narrative. It wasn't. Training camp next day, they moved past it like they were unbothered completely, like nothing ever happened. Joe Mazzulla tells the media, everyone saw last year how we were arguably one of the best defensive teams ever. We could be that on the other end as well. We could focus more offensively. Well, apparently they're the greatest offensive team ever, and they're on pace to crush everyone in the record books. I'm sorry. And of course, it's just what did they showed in June they needed that extra playmaker, extra two-way scorer, and that's what Malcolm Brogdon has added. I saw Eric Spoelstra called it before Friday night's game a whole new dimension of offense, and I totally agree. That's what he's added. Just the ball movement is one play ahead of everyone else. They're quick, their rotation, like I said, they're passing. We just saw the past few games they put up 130, 120 plus consecutive point games until Miami ended the streak. I believe they won, 13 out of 15 now. And it's just really, we've seen the growth in Tatum be a leader. I'm sure we'll talk about him. Of course, Brown. Marcus has even shown his all-around play improve, especially as a point guard. And I wrote a story recently about his quarterback play and really just manning the offense, how he reminds me of that Rondo craftiness with Pierce and the rest. And a lot of NBA fans, he's reminding him and Tatum, that combination is reminding them of Draymond and Steph when they started their greatness. So there's a lot to be happy about with this team. And, I could talk about it for a while.
I'm excited. This is it seems like such a different team you're watching this year than you've seen them before, because I feel like they have been that team that's been more focused defensively. And now this year, they're just like, fuck it, we're just scoring points. We're going balls to the wall. We're scoring. And part of the key of that has been, let's hit on our boy, Jason Tatum. He is an MVP candidate. I called this in July. I was on another podcast. I have it on the website already. I wish I'd put my bet in then that he was going to be the MVP this year. I'm like, he's going to take what happened in that series against Golden State. He's going to take all the criticism he received all summer long. It's going to be iron sharpens iron. He's going to come out and have a dark horse MVP candidacy run this year. And that's just coming to fruition in front of my eyes. And I love to see it. What have you seen different about Jason Tatum's game this year?
Man, just his ability to lead. And during that playoff run, as we saw with the monsters that they took down along the way to get to June, I was like, if we win this, then I would say that he's already, and many others would view him that way as well, already one of the, greatest names out there. You could argue top 50 or whatever, with just, the opponents of who he would have taken down, like Durant, a powerful juggernaut, a defensive one seed, Giannis, and then one of the best teams ever, right? Mm-hmm. So what I was telling people was like, we really haven't seen a hiccup like that, and if we really even want to call it that, in his career yet. And as you probably saw, he has the same numbers as LeBron when LeBron was in his first finals. So like, if we even want to call that a hiccup, but like Kendrick Perkins says, Jason Tatum lost sleep and after that finals loss, which he actually did. And him and Marcus Smart were very vocal about it. We were calling it in May. We were seeing that the angry intensity he had on the defensive end, just ready to take on Kevin Durant, shutting him down on defense. And it's just the ability to lead now. And the fact that, come around that time, we were like, okay, he's probably like top 8, Kawhi Leonard range. No, now we're arguing he's might be the best player in the game today. And not just his ability to lead, you see the muscle. He continues to get stronger and stronger and meaner. It kind of reminds you of that young Kobe, just with how, angry he's been and just the will to win. As we've seen him say to the media, he doesn't even the MVP isn't even on his mind that much. They just want to win in the worst way. And the beauty of that is it's very rare you find, of course, a player of his standards and his greatness this early prioritize that over anything in the world. And of course, there are a few greats that do that, but like he has shown that since his rookie year. And it's really just kind of like that year 2 LeBron in Miami when they lost to Dallas. That's kind of the intensity he's brought. And it's just nothing is standing in his way right now. We saw he had his worst game of the year on Friday. I expect another. We don't know if it'll be 49-11 again, like we saw Wednesday against Miami, but I expect another masterpiece this evening in Brooklyn for sure, knowing the opponent as well.
Yeah, I'm sure Tatum would love you giving him the Kobe compliments and comparisons as well. He's a big Kobe guy, and if he's taken that leap where it's now he has that kind of, you want to say it, Mamba mentality, that would just be great because that performance in the finals was so tough to watch. Just the turnovers, not scoring late in games, just the poor shots like selection. It was just like he was just so uncharacteristic that series. I felt like
that's really what it was too, right? Like he seemed to perform well early in the ball game, and then in crunch time he was just disappeared. And yeah, the Kobe comparison since his rookie year, I've done nothing but voice it louder and louder. And you see it really not just year by year, month by month, but every game. You see the moves, and I just really wish Kobe was here to see it because he really started to take off when the pandemic was beginning, really right before it. And we know he trained him, I believe it was the summer prior, 2018. And it's really just something special, man. He's really, you could argue, a lot of people want to say it's a little early, but I'm sure we'll talk about this team later in the pod, but I was beginning the season like Luka Doncic is the MVP. Like every other media person is saying, Luka Doncic has to win it eventually. He looks like the next LeBron James. He can elevate his team to a whole nother level that we don't see, young guys do, even with the low talent around him. But once Tatum, I think it was the one game in Detroit where he had 40 or close to it and barely missed and just showed those Kobe moves. I was like, oh yeah, he's got to be the MVP. And then he beats Luka and has a better performance on both ends on the Thanksgiving Eve game on ESPN. And I was like, he's the best player in the league, in my opinion. Now I'll give the biased answer.
Yeah, we'll definitely touch on Luka too in a little bit. But rounding out the Celtics, how do you think they're going to stack up against, a team like the Bucks if it comes down to them in the Eastern Conference Finals?
So my opinion still stands that I had coming into the year. I do think it will be difficult to get back. And, they did just lose to the Lakers, which they said was the game of the year. Friday, I was glued to Celtics in Miami. They get Middleton back. It's going to take time to mesh, but they've won a championship before. They know what it takes. And at this point, them and Boston have been a solid postseason rivalry since Kyrie Irving was on the team, of course. And, it's just the Boston Celtics really look ahead of everybody else. And with that historic offense, like we said, and, even his running mate, he's now 10th in the MVP ballot. Jaylen Brown's last 10 games, 28-7, 3.9 assists, shooting 55%. His last 5, 31-7-4, 58% shooting, true shooting percentage of 68.9. So it's a combination of everything. Their ability to lead, Marcus Smart filling the sheet besides doing everything else he does to help the team win and be the leader. Al Horford shooting, I believe, 47% from 3. It's like Malcolm Brogdon said it recently. Our second unit is full of starters, and there's about 6 guys that shoot 45% from range or more. And it's Brogdon, it's Horford, it's Derek White, it's Grant Williams. And like we said, that ball movement. And Danilo Gallinari, who they signed, who we might not see this year, he's a 40% from three-point range shooter himself, I believe the past 4 out of 5 or 6 seasons. So, and then unlocking Sam Hauser, right? they've been looking for a shooter like this for so long. Max Strus, RJ Hunter, James Young, all these young guys. And Sam Hauser was the talk of the organization during Summer League and the praise he got. White and Tatum saying they'd never seen a shooter like him. We saw his Summer League play. And then he puts on a show in preseason, and then he earns his rotation spot and just continues to just rarely miss. And there was talk that was like, okay, to make them even more, of course, stronger and powerful, do they go and get another third string center to give, a returning Robert Williams, who I didn't even say yet isn't even there yet, a returning Robert Williams and a Horford who they were planning on relieving, that they made the message of that since the summer most of this season. Do they go get another five? Well, Luke Cornett has looked terrific. They don't even need to at the moment. And, Pritchard, when he gets his opportunity, I like that they mix in Blake when Al gets his rest and he provides both on and off the floor whenever he's asked to do something. This is really a special team, and they're set up to be successful and be something really powerful and special for the next couple of years at least, led by those two pillars.
Yeah, like we said, and this is all the success right now is without even Robert Williams in the lineup. And when he comes back, he just unlocks, I think, even more of the defensive side for this team and just the offensive potential. I think just kind of opening up more space inside and, giving some freedom on the perimeter as well.
Yeah, and just, of course, when him and Horford play together, as we saw, you can't score on them either. Like their ability to both guard the perimeter, multiple different positions. And I just tipped the hat to Joe Mazzulla as well. Like no one knew what to expect from him. Of course, just a young, obviously, basically kid when it comes to coaching. I believe he's 34, wins coach of the month, and really backed up what he said to the media when he talked about their potential offensively. And he's just really been something special. And of course, we loved Ime and we saw a great future in him. I hope, everything turns out well for him and he finds a good home, but Joe Mazzulla has really been awesome.
Yeah, I was kind of shocked to hear his name get thrown around with the Nets, and then all the Kyrie stuff popped up and that kind of dissipated. And now he doesn't seem like he's going to be going there at this point.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's just, in my opinion, that was another thing that Kyrie kind of delayed and Kyrie kind of just knocked off for the organization. I was always saying last season James Harden would still be there, and I still agree. If Kyrie maybe got the vaccine, you probably agree as well. Kyrie's decisions was kind of the first domino for the toxic year and beyond that the Nets had last year. And if this thing wasn't going on with him a month ago or whatever it was, there would have been, they would have had more of an opportunity and it would have looked better publicly if they hired Udoka. But of course, it just didn't look like the timing was right for either of them.
All right, everybody. So after all that Celtics gush fest, we're going to take a super quick break and come back with Rob to get into more of, other NBA action for all you non-Celtics fans. We'll be right back.
Recording in progress.
Of course, back with Rob now here after that Celtics gush fest. So Rob, let's kind of get around the NBA a little bit. I think, so I told you a little bit about myself. I went to the U of A for a year, so I was a big Ben Mathurin guy. So I think one of the surprises I'm seeing right now is the Pacers. They're fifth in the East. Mathurin's averaging 20 points off the bench. Halliburton's leading the NBA in assists, I think, nearly 11 a game. What are your thoughts on that team?
I think they're terrific, and I would argue that they are the best show in basketball today. Chris, I'll tell you, I've had them, of course, with many others. They were at the bottom of my Eastern Conference pack. They were a lottery team to me. I thought they had the pieces, of course, with Tyrese Halliburton, Benedict Mathurin, a healthy Miles Turner, and manning the five himself. And even those young guys, Isaiah Jackson and what's his name, Terry Taylor, and O'Shea Brissett, those guys, even second unit guys. And then you have Buddy Hield, who starts off the year scorching from the outside on minimal attempts. And it's just they're fourth in pace points too, Chris. And something about Halliburton too, since his rookie year in Sacramento, I just have seen it absolutely in his game. The ability to make it's like every play is just effortless. The way he leads with his assist, his passing, his no looks, of course, might have a weird form from the outside, but he nails those outside looks. His playmaking skills, of course, he could rebound and take it the floor. And even like with his body frame and his low of weight, he can just control a game completely better than all other 9 guys on the floor and just control the tempo. And that's what separates his greatness from the rest. And you might have saw maybe when what's his name Nemhard hit the game winner against the Lakers. You might have saw that video of him when he was describing how he knew he had 4 seconds left in the clock and knew he had time to pass it. Like his IQ is just off the charts. And since Sacramento as a rookie, I was like, he is different. And he is one of those guys who plays like a veteran, who's made it to many conference finals, made it to many all-star games. And it's just something really special. Like they continue to shoot well. Like I said, they're up there in pace points. They play great defense. I think you tip the hat to Rick Carlisle as well. He knew that everyone was down on them at least the first year. And them being this young, being this little of experience. But he's really just gathered the troops, kind of like what we're seeing in Sacramento with Mike Brown. It's just, he's really shown, and I saw a video of him when he was telling Mathurin that, listen, you're going to win the Rookie of the Month in 15 minutes. This is just showing, he was telling the group, like, this is showing our togetherness, that we know that, like, we could affect the game with our talent night in, night out. Guys can, get their own. And it's just, I think they're going to continue to, who knows if they might finish in the top 8. They could easily be a play-in team. I think they have the talent to finish in the top 8. But the one fear for people who love them like me and you are they going to want to sell come February? We may not be sure. If they continue to be like this, I don't think so. But, they got, of course, they what do you want? You want shooting, you want Buddy Hield. You want inside and outside game, who's great when he's healthy in shot blocking, and Miles Turner. They could really be a solid seller if things start to go south in a blink of an eye for Indiana, but they are special for sure.
Yeah, they have a lot of shooters on that team, I feel like. So even if they do, I feel like make a little bit of run, they might still be, one of those sellers, because I feel like they're perpetually always putting Miles Turner on the trade block. I know the Celtics have flirted with trying to get him. So if they keep up this consistency, I don't think they'll float his name out, but they have other shooters. I think like Duarte is a name out there that they just drafted, who's a bench shooter that maybe a team might want to get at if they can get some more, front court depth.
Aaron Nesmith too, who's shown his improvement since leaving Boston. I thought he was a good fit there, knowing the young group of guys around him and knowing he had the potential if the opportunity was there. I thought, and you probably saw him in Boston when, he was on the floor. He's always shown the hustle game. Mm-hmm. It's just his 3 just could not fall in green. And now it is a little bit in yellow. So it's just, he's always been a great hustler. I'm sorry. What was that?
I said, yeah, good. It's good to see him kind of finally getting some time to a little bit of flourishment there out in Indy.
Yeah. Special.
Now, we talked a little bit too about the Nets here. They're playing the Celtics tonight. How do you see the Nets season kind of playing out now that all the Kyrie stuff's kind of subsided? It seems like people are back on, not hammering Ben Simmons as much as they were at least a month ago.
Well, like many people like me and you, it's tough to really put a prediction on them and, think, okay, are things really coming up roses for them? Because just with Simmons, it's just a lot of uncertainty still knowing Durant's two running mates with Simmons' health uncertainty. Of course, he looks a lot better, and I'm happy for him as well as many others. He looks tremendously better, especially each and every game he's improving. And of course, Irving's decision making. We're not sure, but they are on a roll offensively. I'm pretty sure they've they've won 7 out of their last 10 or something like that. I think I saw, and they're a top 3 team offensively. They keep just putting up points. TJ Warren's back. Seth Curry plays a nice role. I'm sorry, might not be every night, but the consistency with his shooting is there, and he seems to be a nice pace. The problem is that their defense goes like this, like down, up, just it's not consistent. And that was my thing when the season started, was like, I think that's what's gonna hurt them when they fully put it together and they start building continuity on the floor, is that they don't have much interior. Although Claxton did improve and he's shown he's a lot better than how he was last year. He's good. It's just he needs some help, and obviously they could use some more bulk. And Markieff Morris, actually, I'm sorry, provides experience. He could play some 5 at times, and he could even space the floor, play in or out. But it's just with just Simmons and Claxton as your main 2 defenders, I'm not too sure. Of course, they've had a big, pleasure of a surprise out of Watanabe and Royce O'Neal, who I thought when they signed both of them, I saw it myself. I was like, okay, I think these could be the best signings they've had. Sean Marks this summer, a guy that plays elite defense on closeouts and can nail threes, and Yuta Watanabe, and Royce O'Neal, who's shown in Brooklyn he could do more than just 3-and-D. And we saw the triple-double he had in Portland. And he's a high-volume shooter from out there as well. Royce was an excellent pickup. And their role guys have really just been great fits for them. So I think that for Brooklyn, of course, the sky's the limit. I'm not sure how great they match up against the top contenders of the league, Boston, Milwaukee, Phoenix, Denver. But it's just, they could be one of those contenders come May if the continuity is there, if the consistency is there, and that's what everyone's waiting for.
Yeah. And then now I think one thing is I was just kind of scrolling through Twitter. I think it happened kind of yesterday. I think I saw you keen in on it too a little bit. Some of the Tom Thibodeau backlash now coming on for the Knicks here after they're kind of a slow start. They're under 500. Are there problems at MSG right now?
Well, I kind of thought that they could surprise around Brunson, Barrett, and Randall if the others around them can consistently make shots. That's Cam Reddish, that's Evan Fournier, that's the whole second unit when the opportunity is there. That's quickly. They've had a nice surprise at a top, and I kind of thought that ever since they've had that, it was the pandemic year, they made the playoffs, they were a high seed, and then against the Atlanta Hawks in the first round, they just ran into a better team. Knicks fans and NBA media want to throw shade at Julius Randle. He doesn't deserve it. He's had a solid year of vengeance, and has you probably seen as well, when the moment is the biggest and when the lights are the brightest, he tends to always show up. Of course, national TV games, of course, against the top contenders. And with Jalen Brunson, he's been just a spectacular fit. He's changed the complexion. In my opinion, he is the best player on the team. He can man an offense. And Thibodeau said this about him early in the year. His mind is his greatest attribute. That's better than everyone else's because of what, like we said about Halliburton. He has that IQ, and his mind is just, ahead of everyone else's in the fact that he can control a game. And Brunson is just fearless in crunch time. He never backs down from the moment. We've seen him miss a couple shots at the end this year, but the looks are there, and he could knock those down. The opportunities are there. we'd like to see some more consistency out of RJ Barrett, just like Nick fans, of course. And so since really like they've made that playoff run in 2021 and they had issues defensively last year. I mean, they did have a lot of Derrick Rose, Kemba Walker, and Evan Fournier, but I was kind of like, is Tibbs a little overrated? Like he's a great voice and a great leader to have. And as we're seeing with Brunson has known him since high school, with him and his dad both being on the staff, him and his dad both training him. I really thought they could be a little better. I guess they've been keeping afloat when it comes to the play-in, but you never know. I think Tibbs could be on. We should keep the lookout on him, maybe within the next 6 months. I did see reports that we always see that are like their front office are waiting for the next big superstar to be available, whether it's a Gilgeous-Alexander, which it won't be likely, whether it's a Durant, which, hey, you never know. Of course, early in the year, it was looking like that might come soon, a request of a trade, especially with the Irving stuff. But I believe the Knicks, Leon Rose and what's his name? Dolan. It's just, there are a lot of all talk. So let's see them actually make the big call or big transaction when the time matters most. But I do believe that Tibbs should maybe be on the lookout for not only Knicks fans, but around the league. I agree.
Yeah. Now, one other thing that I've been thinking about. So we did a little bit of an NBA round ball thing beginning of the season. And I was thinking who could be this year's like Memphis Grizzlies, last year, kind of that dark horse under the radar team. My team out of the gates was the Pelicans, who were looking pretty good. But now I've kind of also identified as the Cavs might be that team as well this year. What are your thoughts on like those two teams? Who do you think might be that Memphis Grizzlies-esque squad this year?
I like this question a lot when I saw it. I'm going to go with Cleveland just because they've completely surprised me. I thought that they'd be lower in the East, even though just knowing, like, we came into the season thinking that the East was that much more powerful than the Western Conference. And I was thinking that Cleveland could maybe be towards the bottom of the playoff picture, like 6-7, maybe a little higher. And that's a big underrate, knowing who they were acquiring and who was coming in. It's just Donovan Mitchell has just been splendid this year. And I wrote a story about him maybe after the first 2 weeks of the season. He's just been spectacular when it comes to not only being the dynamic scorer on multiple levels that he is, but he's assisting more. He's showing an effort defensively that we haven't seen in years when he was with Utah. It just shows his happiness. The Cavs are second in defensive rating too in their last 10. I believe in offense, they're 13th with 114.5. And it's really just his ability to come in as a leader, and he's shown that growth, right? They've even had some guys in and out. Garland, I believe Mobley missed a few games. Jared Allen's out right now. It's just, and I believe JB Bickerstaff does deserve a lot more credit, and we hear it a lot sometimes, but even more than he gets. It's just Donovan has changed the whole foundation, and we know they could have about 4 all-stars at full potential individually. And they have everything when it comes to veterans, leaders, shooters off the bench. Kevin Love still puts up his numbers, and he's still a great voice. Chetty Osman. I know Dean Wade is out a little bit, but it's just they look really special this year. And I think that there are a plethora of East teams that are better experience-wise, but they could definitely be in the mix if they just keep this up. And I think Mitchell brings that experience. With the Pelicans, they were everyone's sleeper when the season started. My thing with them is, we saw an MVP, all NBA caliber performance from Zion in San Antonio the other night. We want to see, I guess, a little bit more of that. And it's not even that needed. Like when he had that first year, averaged like 26, 27, 60% from the field. We've seen what he could do at his full potential, full best. We'd like to see Ingram, of course, stay healthy. And, CJ McCollum had some COVID issues. We just like that team also to build some continuity with their big three. David Griffin's done a tremendous job. Willie Green, also a coach that doesn't get talked about enough. And you got even guys like Herb Jones who are going to be special this season. And of course, what's his name? Trey Murphy, who's been lights out as of late. And there's certain games where Valanciunas looks like his normal self as well. So I think both teams have a very high ceiling and potential. But I would take the Cavs if I was to pick one.
Yeah, right now for all you betting fans at home, Pelicans are plus 1,200 to win the East, and we got the Cavs at plus 1,000. So they're about the same boat there a little bit. But yeah, I think I'm leaning more towards the Cavs. At least I would be more scared to play the Cavs right now if I was going to be facing them in the playoffs right now. Just I feel like they can. I mean, we saw how the Celtics had, I think 2 of their early losses this season were both to the Cavs. And,
And
that's not a great start for them.
they were like, and those were like, for 2 games within the 10 games of the season, electrifying like that. They were the most, for 2 like early November or late October games in overtime when it comes to the Mitchell block or Tatum's block on Mitchell, Tatum's dunk on Allen, Jaylen Brown's dunk on Mitchell in Boston. Like that could be some series. And that's no knock on the Boston Celtics, of course, but that's just, they've proved that they could, with probably the best of East contenders, they could put up a hell of a series. And, again, about Ingram and Zion, we know Boston's tandem is looking by far the best duo in the league at the moment. But that's the biggest thing about those two, is those two have the potential and ceiling to easily be the best duo in the league, with Zion's obviously great potential. And if Ingram can just continue to stay on the court.
Yeah, for sure. I think health will be key for the Pelicans, definitely. But I think both these teams definitely going to be fun teams to watch. Now let's kind of stay in the West a little bit, Rob. The Lakers look like they're kind of coming around a little bit. They've gone 4-1 over their last 5 games. I think AD's been putting up crazy numbers. He's averaging like 33 points, 13 boards, like 4 assists, 3 blocks, shooting like almost 70% from the field over the last 8 games. Do you think some teams should fear a Laker resurgence this season?
Crazy I'm kind of saying this, but like I kind of do. And there's a lot of more powerful and talented teams that obviously are better. And even with it's tough to doubt LeBron and Anthony Davis, of course, and especially with what we saw in the bubble. But it's like with what we saw in the past 2 seasons, that's where the doubt is built in, of course. And obviously with the way they started this year, they were 2-10, Chris. And they've been 7-2 since. They're second to Boston in offensive rating in their last 5. They're 5th in the league in their last 10 in offensive rating. Like you said, Davis is looking like I said on my Instagram story last night. I think he's a top 3 player today. And he certainly is an MVP candidate. He's just, Darvin Ham is voiced so much, and they talk about it every broadcast, how Darvin Ham went out to dinner with him, LeBron, Westbrook, and the main message was like, we need to run through you. It starts with you, everything you do. Like, and we see him, everything does. We see him bring up the ball, of course, as we'd imagine. Everything just runs through him. We know he's always displayed his guard skills, and he has to the most now. And that's what's happening each and every game, more and more, the more they look better. And yeah, like you said, on the season now, 27, 12, a steal, 2.4 blocks. I do think he's the defensive player of the year as of today. Brook Lopez is keeping a tight race with him, but I do think he's the defensive player of the year. And I really think he could end the year top 4 MVP ballot, if not greater. Like, he has that type of potential. We do think Tatum could win this, but I won't be surprised if he's right on his tail. His last 10 games, and the numbers I just read, I'm sure, like you saw, it's just Giannis is the same MVP season for him with those 27, 12, and 2 blocks. But it's like his last 10, 30 and a half, he's a plus 61, 14 and a half boards, 2.9 assists. Like you said, it's like almost 70% from the field. He's just scorching volume-wise. 61% the last 10, 30 from 3, 84 from the line. And it's just we see discussions now, how they've had internal ideas of DeRozan and Nikola Vucevic, whether it might take Westbrook and first round picks,
Yeah.
but that they're finally willing to move off. But in my opinion, I think Russ, LeBron was out for a bit. We're seeing these past few games how he's showing that, he hasn't gone anywhere from the start, the really unprecedented start for the beginning of the season that he had. He's still around and showing that MVP play. And that's what he's proved to us the past few. But I think it's Westbrook that's been the igniter of this. His last 10, he's really just, I saw Chris Haynes saying at the game they were in Phoenix on TNT, he's just bought into the process, really. In every spot he's had to visit, he's had to adjust somehow. In Oklahoma City, in Houston, and Washington, next to the stars he's been with. His last 10, he's 13.9, 8.4 assists, 4.9 boards. And, as a team in defense, they've been floating within the top 10 for the season, but it's just over these last 10 games, they're sixth. So they've always been that team defensively. You're getting great play out of Austin Reeves, of course. Lonnie Walker has been a tremendous signing, and I love that story he did with Dave McMenamin, talking about how he prepares every day with meditation, with his usual routine. But yeah, Darvin Ham is up to something, I would say. And, people on Twitter can continue to clown Rob Pelinka and Jeannie Buss for the outlook they had for the Westbrook trade or any sort of transaction they've made. But slowly and surely, they seem to be growing the life that they once had. And like we see, Davis is playing the best basketball he has as a Laker, besides the bubble, for sure.
Well, looking at the odds now, I'm surprised. Tatum's actually the betting favorite for MVP now, plus 250 over Luka. Luka's at 270, Giannis at 280, but tons of value in AD right now, plus 5,000. He's 11th on the list, but the Lakers keep this up, Rob. I think we'll be seeing him moving up. I might just throw in a, little something on AD here after the interview today, just a little Rob Greene special. So Rob, let's keep it. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but to throw this in too, like everyone, it's just, I think that getting back Dennis Schroeder as well was a big move. Obviously, we've seen Pat Bev is not even close to the player that anyone, not only that he used to be, but that anyone imagines him to be. But it's Dennis Schroeder's a guy who can thread the needle, score on all three levels. We saw it in the Euro Cup. And, when him and Thomas Bryant came back, I was like, well, they're not going to solve the shooting. But I knew that they were capable of course, being a big boost. Bryant playing like a traditional center. He could play like a guard a bit on the perimeter too. And Schroeder, we've seen what he's capable of. And he was good with LeBron and AD the first time. But I'm sorry about that. I wanted to squeeze it in. Go on.
No, you're good. Yeah, see him back with the Lakers, of course, not with that $80 million contract, playing for much much less money now, but that's his problem. So one of the other, I think, interesting stories coming out of the West, Rob, are the Jazz. This team trades Rudy Gobert, trades Donovan Mitchell, and right now they're sixth in the West and playing well. Of course, they brought in Hardy from Boston to be their head coach. What do you think's been going well for the Jazz so far? Or why are things going well for the Jazz?
I absolutely love Will Hardy, and I think that's the main core piece of their success. They've been just terrific offensively all year, fourth. And I was watching the game last night that they just, that Simons had that defensive deflection on, and his big performance led the Blazers just over the Jazz. And the broadcast was even saying, we're getting to know Will Hardy more and more each game, because he was yelling at the refs and he was showing some animation. But it's like that he's shown his greatness in the coaching field and his specialty. He was with Popovich and Udoka in San Antonio, with them in the Olympics, with Boston last year. And I don't know if you saw this on I think it was the Boston Globe or something, when the Jazz wanted Joe Mazzulla too, when they got Hardy, and Danny Ainge, of course, the president of the Jazz. Wick Grossbeck was like, I told Danny, Wick Grossbeck, the Celtic owner, was like, I told Danny, like, no, you're not taking Joe as well. And we're seeing the greatness in both of them, really. But of course, staying with the Jazz. I think it's just really their togetherness. Now, they miss Mike Conley a little bit. They need a bit of an organizer, but it's just, Lauri Markkanen, most improved, if not Tyrese Halliburton, should be an all-star this year. If he keeps it up, I really think Lauri still will. We know the Jazz have come back to earth at least a little bit, but they're still, as I tweeted last night, splendid to watch. Markkanen, Olynyk, shooters. They have size, of course. They could play in and out, mostly Lauri, but Clarkson's been awesome. Sexton's opportunities come more and more. I think Malik Beasley was kind of under the radar when they acquired him, knowing, I believe it was 2 seasons ago in Minnesota, the potential he showed. But I think it's just the coaching and that everyone's on the same page. And the front office, besides Ainge, seemed confident coming into the season. They were like talking about marketing success, saying that the team has a lot of, tools and specialties that they could use, and saying that they're excited with how he just played in Euro Cup. And then Danny Ainge is on the radio saying, which I kind of believe after the years we saw in Boston and their early rebuild after the Garnett and Pierce trade, he was like, I'd never try to put together a team that tanks, whether maybe I have a boatload of picks or whatever. I always try to put together a competitive team. And this is the definition of it. Like, I believe they will be. It may not look like it for now, for the foreseeable future, but they should be at least the bottom 10 in the league when it comes to the Wembanyama sweepstakes. Maybe 15, we'll say. But, hey, this is a playing team, at least, if they could keep this up. And I tip the hat to Will Hardy mostly, for sure.
Yeah, and then I think one team who should be up there where the Jazz are. What do you think's going on in Dallas? Why do you think they're struggling so much this year?
Chris, they were my dark horse this year. Dark horse. And I was like, how much could they really miss Brunson if you have a Spencer Dinwiddie who they've been in love with since they acquired? Kind of showed a little bit at times before they wanted him out in Washington in the beginning, or even with the Mavs through those game winners, showed his old net self pre-ACL injury. And the thought was, can he be about 50% of Jalen Brunson? The answer is he's not. Christian Wood, who many of us thought could be Luka's running mate and a better fit than Porzingis, he's not. And Jason Kidd is using him the wrong way, which I kind of see his perspective, knowing he's a porous defender, knowing he has to learn the scheme of things, and teams play differently where they can match up Maxi Kleber or just go small. It's just, they really miss Brunson a lot, way more than people imagine. And like I said, I really thought just Dinwiddie could have took over that second ball handler role. But like we said before, Jalen doesn't back down from the moment, and he's big in crunch time. We saw in the playoffs last year when he was at his best when Luka missed time, as we saw the series against the Jazz. He carried them, put up numbers. And then when Luka's there, he could be another crunch time guy. And we saw yesterday at Madison Square Garden, Tim Hardaway Jr., they get 7-8 threes. He's been on fire lately. And I saw this one basketball hoops page tweet that was like, he could be the perfect running mate with him in the playoffs, but he won't get that recognition because he's a role guy. And because he's coming off a big leg injury last year. And of course, Tim Hardaway Jr. isn't a star, and we'd like to see the consistency. And I just think that defensively, they've always had the IQ, as we saw with Kidd starting last year. I think we will see Christian Wood get unleashed a little bit more as time goes on, but it's just, they'll never be that team that everyone imagines them to be until they get, whether it's a high caliber wing, whether it's a high caliber guard. Kyrie Irving is a free agent. We don't know what suitors he'll have this summer. I don't know if it'll be Mark Cuban in the Mavs, but they just need some sort of star tandem to help Doncic reach. It's tough to say his full potential, but we'll say for the Mavs to reach their full potential. Because I really thought, like, there wasn't a doubt in my mind, even losing Brunson. I thought, like I said, he's shown that next LeBron play when I was talking about him and Tatum as MVPs, and he's shown he could ignite a team and completely take it to the next level. There was even performances early this season where he showed it, like that game in Brooklyn where he just had a 40-point triple-double and he makes the passes look effortless, like as if he's just having fun playing like volleyball and just not looking and going for like a back tap pass or something like that. But it's just, he's so amazing. And he may not finish number one in the most valuable player ranking. I think Dallas will be better. I think they started out maybe not the greatest last year, if I'm remembering correctly, but they do miss Brunson. And the search for that second star still continues.
Yeah, I think that search is going to continue through this year into next year again, and we'll see who they take a shot at. Seems like Porzingis was a whiff. It seems like Christian Wood's a whiff, and we'll see kind of maybe who the next guy is going to be. I think another surprise out of the West right now are the Warriors as well. They're 12-11 on the season, and I think surprisingly they're struggling on the road. They're 2-10 on the road. Any concerns for the Warriors this year?
If anything, I would have thought, we saw how they started the year. They were very porous defensively, and it was mainly on the road. Like watching them, it looked like there was barely any efforts on closeouts. And I think if anything was lingering for that tough start was, and obviously their struggles on the road now, was the thing with Draymond and Poole. And my thing with that was like they already didn't extend him. So it's like that was another problem that he added for them, like internally. When it comes to focus, like he did with Kevin Durant in that Clippers game in 2019. And then he does it now with the kid when he is the opposite of that, as we know, as a leader. And he's just a player like Jordan Poole's favorite, really role model and guidance really to be around besides the rest of the Warriors team. And they're getting better play out of Jonathan Kuminga. That guy Lamb seems to play a great role. Everyone was wondering why they sent, or some people were at least wondering why Wiseman went down to the G League. It makes sense knowing that, his numbers haven't been the greatest down there, but it just makes sense knowing that he could get in any reps he wants. He could put up as many shots as he wants, many passes, do what any sort of skill set at any amount. He just gets in the exact reps that he needs, and Golden State can't afford it in the big leagues because they are struggling defensively. And as we've seen, Draymond, his step is back, and he really, like, that motor that he's always had has been back the past few. He's been filling the sheet. He's looked a lot better defensively. It's just, if anything, if they have any worries when it comes to the postseason, I would say, which is tough for me to say against arguably the best organization ever, but there are hungry, talented teams out there led by the Boston Celtics, of course. So a repeat might be a little tough for them, and they'll still be around, of course, come to the deep part of the postseason. And who knows what Draymond's future will bring beyond this year. Could be the last dance, knowing they just extended Poole and Wiggins. And, Steph's looking like an MVP this year himself. And Wiggins and him were terrific last night against Houston, who kind of hung around in their game against them. But it's just, I think they'll be fine. As you can tell, I'm a big coach's guy. I've always been a big Steve Kerr fan. And like he said, when that happened in the beginning of the season, they gave Draymond the benefit of the doubt because they know he broke their trust, but they know that he's one of a kind and things happen. That was crazy that even got out, but I think they'll be fine. It's just they need to be better on the road, like we said. Their record is good. I want to say they're 10-5 in their past 15. Their offense has been one of the best in the league as well. So they're starting to look like the Warriors again for as many slow starts as they had in this dynasty of theirs the past 8 years.
All right, Rob. So let's get you out of here on this last question. What's your way too early NBA Finals prediction?
I said Boston and the Clippers, so I'm gonna have to remain. It's tough. I'm a big Clipper guy, and I always have been. It's just me, as well as many others of the media, just see it in them and their potential to reach the finals. And we see like a potential in being a better Boston led by their two wings. It's just, like I said, with continuity with them. Shaq on Inside the other day said, I'd like to see them get at least 25 to 30 games before the playoffs for them to show me like, okay, you guys can get it done. But it's like they've only played in literally 47. Kawhi and George have only played in 47 games since the bubble together. And that's a really low number if you think of it. So it's just, they're getting the bright side of them is Ty Lue continues to look like one of the best coaches in the league. Reggie Jackson's coming together, even though him and Morris shot porous. I think it was like 3 of 23 and combined 12 points yesterday. And they're 5-5 in their last 10. Norman Powell has really gelled back into what the scorer that Steve Ballmer and the rest of the office thought he would be when they acquired him with the core of the team last February. But it's just, there's so much potential within this team. Like you have guys like Covington that are finally starting to get the appropriate minutes. Terrence Mann, Luke Kennard's even been hurt. Even Moses Brown, like he hasn't panned in the NBA besides those big statted games on the Thunder, but he's a nice piece to have for a team that lacks size. We saw Zubac have that historic game. I love the Clippers, and I hope they can put it together and get those, 25 to 30 games in before it matters most and build that continuity. And if the Celtics can keep it up and continue to look like, the best offense ever, led by the best duo in the league, by Marcus, who's ranked continuing to grow his name in the point guard rankings. Like I said, Brogdon has been the dream acquisition, especially with what they looked like they were missing in June. So if the Boston Celtics can keep it up, if the Los Angeles Clippers can grow some, you can't say chemistry because of how great Ty Lue is, like I just said, but can grow some continuity and consistency, I think that could be the finals, and that could be a great one.
Awesome. Well, I like the prediction, Rob. Now tell everyone where they can check out everything you're doing and stay tuned in with what all your thoughts on the NBA.
All right. Thank you guys. Thank you, Chris. Usually just mainly on Twitter. I have a link tree of really just everything I've done writing wise, all my social media on Instagram and Twitter. I'm Rob Greene NBA. Like many others, I'm on Twitter more than anyone. I'm always reporting and tweeting play-by-plays for the Celtics and, of course, a million other teams around the league, just tweeting league info, tweeting updates, everything we need to know. And yeah, I'm working on a story right now of Bruce Brown for Hoops Have It for Fansided. I just did a Kyle Kuzma one, but Rob Greene NBA on Twitter. That's where I'll be. That's where the main places you could find me.
All right, Rob. Thank you so much again. And everyone go check out Rob, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Thank you, guys.